Welcome back, Ronin Renegades. I am Lupine Fiasco. This is Daily FaB gameplay, and today's game will be played against Azalea. For anyone who is new to the channel, welcome to the Resistance. What we do here is review replays of games that I have played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I'll walk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, while explaining my thought process for the lines that I take, and compare that to what I did at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns. And the goal of all this is to tighten and optimize our gameplay in the future, take down paper events like Road to Nationals and Pro Quests, and walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. Without further ado, let's get into our sideboard and our game plan. Today's game features my Searing Emberblade list. If you would like to check that list out on FaB or try it for yourself on Talishar, the deck link is available in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me, and make sure you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. We have lost the die roll and we will be going first. This isn't going to affect how we sideboard at all. We just know that we are at a bit of a disadvantage here, as Azalea will get the first opportunity to attack our life total or our hand size. As far as equipment, we are going to keep our Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. Our plan in this matchup is to set up one really big turn involving Art of War or Spreading Flames and breaking Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. And all we are doing to set that up is setting a power card in Arsenal and waiting for Azalea to hit us with something that isn't a disruptive arrow. So if she really isn't hitting us with Red in the Ledger, we can fire off a big turn as long as we have the life total to support playing into something like a Remorseless. We are going to keep our Flamescale Furnace, as the ability to block breakpoints and dominated arrows is very important in this matchup, and we value 2 extra life. And because Rangers don't deal arcane damage, we don't need to worry about bringing in Spell Void or Arcane Barrier. Getting into the 60 cards in the deck, we are going to board out 3 Stab Wounds, a Flamecall Awakening, and a Phoenix Flame to board in Command and Conquers, and Warmonger's Diplomacies. And the reason to do this is to bring in Disruption. CNC attacks the Ranger's Arsenal. Without an arsenal, Azalea loses the ability to use her Skullbone Crosswrap to fix the top of her deck, and she loses the ability to Azalea activation into a dominated arrow. And while she can just arsenal a card with Death Dealer and then use Azalea, she's doing it blind. She has Read the Glide Path, she has Ravenous Rabble, and other ways to look at the top card of that deck, but without an arsenal already set up, it becomes a lot less convenient for her to do it. And Warmonger's Diplomacy is just very strong against Azalea. Half of her deck is non-attack actions that buff the power of her attack actions, so if we limit her to only doing one of those 2 things, she's going to have a much weaker turn. Warmonger's Diplomacy can single-handedly take tempo back from Azalea if we find ourselves playing from behind, and can get us back into the game. Our game plan, like I said, is to set up a really big Art of War or Spreading Flames turn with 4 cards behind it, and Mask of the Pouncing Lynx to grab a finisher from our deck. Hopefully we can set up a double finisher turn with Lava Burst and Salt the Wound with Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. Aside from that, we are just trying to mitigate life loss while having the most powerful turns that we can have. Playing against Red in the Ledger means that we are looking to throw powerful 1-action turns like Command and Conquer or Enlighten Strike. If Azalea throws a Red in the Ledger that we cannot block out in its entirety, we might want to throw a 3-block in front of it and then attack with something like a Snatch or a Blaze Headlong just to push a little damage. We aren't bringing in our defense reactions because they don't help against Azalea's biggest turns. When Azalea can set up a 14-power dominated Red in the Ledger, A Sink Below and Arsenal isn't going to help against that. A Sink Below and Arsenal, a Reinforce the Line in hand with a 3 block, only presents 11 block value. We then need to put armor in front of a 14 power arrow as well, which, yes, we block the effect, but what do we have left to do on our turn? I found it's just better to go full aggro into this matchup, try to take advantage of one of Azalea's off turns, and kill her from there. But that's the game plan, that's the sideboard. We can jump into the game now and see how all of this comes together. Our Phoenix Flame goes to discard, and we can take a look at our hand. Considering that we are going first, we aren't expecting to leak a lot of damage over the top of Azalea's blocks, but we can try. We are going to get to throw Rising Resentment, Ronin Renegade, Searing Emberblade, and Phoenix Flame. We can also throw Ronin Renegade, Searing Emberblade, Phoenix Flame, Warmonger's Diplomacy, and Arsenal our Rising Resentment, but I like the idea of saving Warmonger's Diplomacy here. I want to save it for a future turn, give Azalea the opportunity to arsenal something like a Lace with Frailty, then punish her by preventing her from really doing anything unless she has a Ravenous Rabble or an Enlightened Strike in hand already. So all of this said, we are just going to play out our 10 damage turn cycle, set our Warmonger's Diplomacy in Arsenal, then pass it back. Hopefully we catch our Azalea with a few 2 blocks in hand and can push some damage over the top of her blocks. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that, but we do leak at least one with this Phoenix Flame. Hopefully our Rising Resentment can catch her with a 2 block and maybe a Rain Razors. Without knowing what this 4th card in Azalea's hand is, we can't put her on a Rain Razors, but we do know that she would rather have not blocked with it. Azalea activating Death Dealer to throw a Sleep Dart in Arsenal, playing Double Premeditate and attacking for 11. The on-hit here turns off our hero power, but with what we have in hand, we can still throw 13 points of damage back at Azalea. We can Brand with Cinderclaw, Searing Emberblade, E-Strike for 7. If we're just pushing damage, we also have an option to Enlightened Strike for 5, go again, then pitch our blue to attack with Command and Conquer for 11. We have a few good lines available even without using our Phoenix Flame, so we're happy to take this 11 damage and throw more damage or the same amount of damage with Disruption back at Azalea. She uses the Snapdragon Scalers, presumably using the Bullseye Bracers, to put a Remorseless into Arsenal and to fire that off. So we still have the same lines available to us. We can throw 13 damage by bottoming our Command and Conquer. We can throw 11 damage by playing our Command and Conquer. With Azalea having 2 Ponders, she will have an Arsenal, so Disruption is on the table here. The question is whether we want to take an additional 8 or 9 points of damage to do any of that, and I think the answer is no. Looking at this now, what I think I want to do is block this Remorseless with E-Strike and Brand with Cinderclaw. We'll take 1 point of damage from the Remorseless, go down to 28. Then on our turn, we will pitch our blue to play Command and Conquer. Remorseless effect takes us to 27, but we put Azalea down to a 4-card hand. We disrupt her, we mitigate some life loss, and we continue to set up for the rest of this game. Now, another option available to us is to play out a turn like Brand with Cinderclaw, Searing Emberblade, E-Strike for 5, go again, Warmonger's Diplomacy. We may be at a point in time where I want to play this Warmonger's Diplomacy. We could block this Remorseless with E-Strike and Command and Conquer, then attack for 7 and Warmonger's Diplomacy. I think it is correct to play Warmonger's Diplomacy here. Azalea will have a card in arsenal, 4 cards in hand, and we will present her with the opportunity to take 7 points of damage. It isn't substantial, but it is significant. Then hit her with the Warmongers. We free up our arsenal, which leaves us open to Codex of Frailty, but I think it is incorrect to sit on a Warmonger's Diplomacy for as long as we are going to do so here. We choose the Command and Conquer line. I think this is fine. We're throwing 6 points of damage. We keep a very powerful card in our arsenal. Azalea choosing not to block the CNC, and we get a Ravenous Rabble from her arsenal, so not playing the Warmongers here was, in hindsight, a very good decision. Of course, we couldn't have known that going into the turn. But let's see what Azalea does here. Playing a Knock the Death Whistle to find Red in the Ledger. Azalea activating the Red the Ledger into Arsenal. And unfortunately, Seek and Destroy here is a pretty significant problem for us. So we have some lines available, just not too many. We're going to block this Red in the Ledger for 3 using one of our Fluster Fists. At that point, we can either pitch, probably Salt the Wound, to play Flamecall Awakening, then lose our Warmonger's Diplomacy, or we play our Warmonger's Diplomacy and lose the other 3 cards in our hand. I like playing the Warmonger's Diplomacy here. I don't want to give Azalea the opportunity to do something like Memorial Ground, Red in the Ledger back to the top of the deck, then activate Azalea to put Red in the Ledger in Arsenal with Dominate. I would like to try to disrupt her here, so we play the Warmongers. Both of us choose War. Azalea playing a Spire Sniping. This is a blue. She does not have Snapdragons available. We are just going to take 3 here. And that's Azalea's turn. So Warmonger's Diplomacy doing exactly what we needed it to do, which is, if not take tempo back, at least prevent Azalea from doing more damage to us. With this hand, we would have loved to see a blue here. If either this Ronin Renegade or this Brand with Cinderclaw was a blue, this turn would be very, very good. As it is, we are still going to push 10 points of damage with the Command and Conquer effect. We're going to use our Furnace. So we'll play our Mounting Anger, we will pitch a Ronin Renegade. At that point, we will pitch our Brand with Cinderclaw to the Furnace to generate 2 resources and play Command and Conquer. What we're really hoping for here is for Azalea to be afraid of the Mounting Anger effect. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem like the case. She'll take the damage. We are not going to banish to Mounting Anger. We are not going to use our Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. We are just going to activate our Furnace and throw the Command and Conquer. Azalea again choosing not to block. She loses a Lace with Frailty from Arsenal, and we will pass the turn back to her. We draw into the Art of War and a Spreading Flames, but this really isn't the hand that I'm looking to play the Art of War with. I would like to be able to use this Art of War with a 5-card hand. So, considering what Azalea is going to do here, we see a dominated Red in the Ledger in Arsenal, 2 Lace with Blood Rots, and pitching a red to attack with this dominated 11 power Red in the Ledger. We have a few options here. We could choose to take all 11 of this damage to keep these 4 cards. That would let us attack with E-Strike for 7, bottom our Brand with Cinderclaw, then keep our Spreading Flames to look for an Art of War Spreading Flames turn. I think that's pretty greedy. Considering that this Red in the Ledger is effectively 15 points of damage, We really don't want to go to 4 against Azalea. Any dominated arrow probably kills us, unless we block with armor. Maybe we have to block with Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, which is terrible value for us. So what I like doing here is blocking with Brand with Cinderclaw. Then on our turn, we will E-Strike for 7, bottoming our Spreading Flames and arsenaling our Art of War. The question is, are we blocking with Flamescale Furnace as well? That's the choice that I made in the past. I don't know if I still agree with it here, because Azalea just has enough breakpoints in the deck that having that extra point of armor is relevant. So it might have been worth it to just sit on the Flamescale Furnace, take an additional 2 points of damage. My thought was, I want to get my armor value while I still can, but the more I play this matchup, the more I think it's possible to get that armor value and wait until later in the game. That either Azalea is going to attack with the big 14 power dominated arrow, at which point that additional point of life from the Flamescale Furnace didn't matter, or she's going to do something like a Ravenous Rabble, an E-Strike Go Again, then Codex, and if we block that first attack with the Flamescale Furnace, Azalea breaks the chain with the Codex, then we can block with the Furnace again. So all of this is to say, if I was making this call now, I would not have blocked with Furnace there. Looking at the hand we draw a blue, so we're feeling good about playing Art of War here. The rest of the hand is not ideal, but we still have our Snapdragon Scalers. Azalea attacks with a 7 power Bolton Shot. We are dead to Rain Razors. I don't know if I knew that at the time this game was recorded. Maybe my thought process was, if Azalea has Rain Razors, we're just dead anyway. The correct play here is to block Bolton Shot with Tiger Stripe Shuko. We play around Rain Razors, and we hope that Azalea just doesn't have a great follow-up. We can't block this Bolton Shot for 7. I mean, we could, but then we lose our turn, and we need to make something happen with this Art of War. So again, keeping in mind that the correct play is blocking this Bolton Shot with Tiger Stripe Shuko. We don't. Azalea uses the reload effect to load a Red in the Ledger, then plays it by pitching Rain Razors. So this is an interesting takeaway from this game. I wouldn't call it a lesson because I cannot teach this. The takeaway is you can make the wrong play and still be fine. And I say that because if we block that Bolton Shot with Tiger Stripe Shuko, Azalea probably does the same thing. She loads the Red in the Ledger with the Bolton Shot reload effect. She pitches Rain Razors to attack with Red in the Ledger. But because we didn't block with Tiger Stripe Shuko, I'm assuming our Azalea thought that we have a defense reaction. So if Azalea plays Rain Razors on the Bolton Shot and we do have a sink below, now the Red in the Ledger is unusable. It goes into Arsenal and Azalea passes the turn. So with perfect information, Azalea knows that we don't have a defense reaction, plays the Rain Razors and kills us. But if she assumes that we have a defense reaction, which we don't, then the correct play for her is to pitch the Rain Razors to attack with the Red in the Ledger. But because we didn't block Bolton Shot with the Tiger Stripe Shuko, now we can use it to block this Red in the Ledger and one of our 3 blocks, then get a 4-card Art of War hand. So despite making the objectively wrong play, it actually works out well for us, and that is the takeaway, that you can play imperfectly and still be fine in the game because your misplay caused your opponent to think that you had the correct line. Very weird. I've thought about this a lot since playing the game. Again, there is no lesson here. Don't make bad plays just in case your opponent outthinks themselves. But in this very weird situation, not blocking the Bolton shot actually worked out for us. So we're going to block this red in the ledger with Shuko and E-Strike. We are planning to attack with Snatch, hopefully get exactly 4 points of block from Azalea, then Snapdragon, Art of War over the top, and banish our Lava Burst. Whether we block that red in the ledger with Lava Burst or E-Strike doesn't really matter. We are going to banish one of them to the Art of War. We're just really hoping to get exact blocks from Azalea here, and we do. So we Snapdragon the Snatch, we play the Art of War, we will draw 2 cards from the Art of War as well as 1 card from Snatch, and see what we can make happen with this hand. We draw into a double strike. We also draw into a Spreading Flames, which is very, very good, and we draw into a Salt the Wound. And because we have Salt the Wound here, but no Snapdragon Scalers, we don't want to break Pouncing Links to find a finisher. So, considering that double finisher is off the table, our best line for this Mask of the Pouncing Links is, weirdly enough, to grab a blue Brand with Cinderclaw, because that is the highest amount of damage we can get from our deck at this point. We're going to play this Spreading Flames. Spreading Flames will give an additional point of power to the Brand with Cinderclaw. Then the Brand with Cinderclaw effect will give an extra point of damage to the double strike that follows it. Then we can pick up our Phoenix Flame and pitch it to our Searing Ember Blade, which also gets an extra point of power because there are 3 Draconic links on the chain. And after having gone 5 links wide, in addition to this Snatch, we end the turn with Salt the Wound. So it's a very weird line. Under really no other circumstance are you ever grabbing blue Brand with Cinderclaw with your Mask of the Pouncing Links, but in this very specific situation, it is the highest damage line available to us. So we start to get blocks out of Azalea, which reduces the power of our Salt the Wound, but at the same time, Azalea blocking is really good for us, because then she isn't attacking back on her turn if she's still alive at the end of this. At this point, Salt is coming in for 7. We are pitching our Phoenix Flame here to get 1 extra point of damage. The game really ends one way or the other at this point. So attacking with the Ember Blade instead of the Phoenix Flame gets that 1 extra point of damage, which gets over a 3 block card like this E-Strike. So not only does it deal 1 extra point of damage on its own, it adds 1 point of damage to Salt the Wound, which at this point comes in for 8. Azalea would need a 4 block defense reaction and cross ramp to stay alive. She doesn't have it, and that's the game. A very, very close one, obviously. We won with an effective 2 points of life. Azalea can easily deal that much damage with a dominated arrow, and as we saw on Azalea's previous turn, she could have won the game had she played that Rain Razors, but she outthought the situation and put us on a defense reaction that we didn't have. That is a weird benefit of not bringing defense reactions into this matchup, just that a lot of Azaleas would expect us to bring defense reactions into this matchup, and I have brought defense reactions into this matchup previously. And if we are on turn 5 at that point, and Azalea hasn't seen us play a defense reaction, she went with the thought, well, surely we are going to start drawing them, as opposed to thinking, surely we don't have them. Just a very weird game, and one that I was really excited to be able to show you, because it was just so strange, and us making the objectively wrong play actually won us that game, because if we had blocked the Bolton shot with the Shuko, we would have had to give another card from hand or our pouncing links to stop the follow-up red in the ledger, which would have given Azalea enough breathing room to not need to block out on this Art of War turn. Just very strange, but a really fun game and really interesting decision making on the entire way through. I do hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned something from it. If you did, hit that like button for me. My comments are always open if you have any questions or feedback. Otherwise, I will see you back here tomorrow for more daily FaB gameplay. And until then, take care.